Hey guys, Mr. Riz here to help you out with the third part of the 214 activity. So we're going to use the information that the user provides. So right now in our code, if we run it, we just have the button that pops up. Nothing else. We can't do anything that the user gives us. But now our frames are all set up, we can program them so the information the user inputs into the text boxes can get incorporated into the program. So in order to do this, we need to learn how to configure the widget after it's already been created. This is done with the config method. So the config method takes the keyword arguments in the same way that you would pass them when you create the widget. So with the config method, you can change the widget after you've already configured it. So here's some two equivalent code examples. So normally before we set up like a label password, we said, okay, here's the frame login, the text is password, and the font is here. We just set it up the second we made it. In this example here, you can see we can just make a label as is, and then later on we can configure it to make the text change and then the font change as well. So the .config method will change something that's already been made. So now let's look at the multi-factor GUI from the 213 activity here. And if you don't remember, I have a link to it, which I'll put over here. We should be able to read through most of this code and try to understand what it means. So, no, that is not the right one. This is not the 213. I thought it was. I'm going to have to change the link. All right, let me pause, put a new. All right, so here we go. Now we have the multi-factor GUI. So if you look at this part here, we can interpret most of the code here. We can see sometimes we have, let's see if we can find any of these, like other than these self things here, we have some frames, the title, frame login, grid. We've used that, the sticky news label. Let's see, is there any configs that are used in here? So let's try to find the uses of config. So we're just going to look for it. All right. Right here, we changed the configuration of the label. Any other config? Oh, no, it'd be good if I could spell config, right? Oh, I guess that's pretty much it right there. So let's examine the authorization function. And what do you think the authorization function does? So right here is self-authenticate. We get the entry, right, from the user. If it equals the answer, then we go through here, we change the frame to welcome to the restricted application. We put that in there, we make a label here. It says this is restricted access, and we configure that to be different. So if we remember here, else, so when we ran this here, oh geez, I totally forget we had to set up like a password, didn't we? What was that? Oh yeah, what's authorization here? But we're talking about the authorize. So username, I put my Ripple page is kind of messing up here. I don't know, admin, I'm not sure, and then a new. Oh, probably because I spelled admin, add new. We can't see, it's just kind of messing up here. Oh, there we go. So it runs up that page and we bring it up. Okay, so next what we're going to do is make our GUI display. So going back to the one that we've been working on here, display the user's password on the frame authorization. So we're going to use the to-do as a guide here to help us go through, like we use the multi-factor .py program. And any documentation we found on that will be helpful to create this code. So we want to add a label to the frame authority, where we want to get the method of the entry password when it's pressed to store it as a result, and then we're going to configure the label. So work with a partner, think about how we can do that to show the person's password after they click login. So let's kind of pause, take a second, and think about the steps you'd have to take to do that, not just the to-do list here. Okay, so the one thing that we need to do is we make sure we want to tie this to an event, and the event is going to be our button. So we can change it from test my button, but I'm just going to leave it as test my button. We just don't want to only change the frame. In fact, well, that's probably something we want to do. We want to start tying in our to-do events in there. So I'm going to put a hashtag to-do. We're going to have to add a label. You know what? I can probably just copy paste this in here. Copy, paste, and then just need to make sure We hashtag, tab them in and hashtag them out. All right. Okay, so next we're going to add a label to the frame authority. So how did we add a label before? Okay, so let's see. Let's look at what we did to name a username label here. I'm just going to copy this code here, and I'm going to paste it here. All right, but we don't want to call it label username. We're going to call it, label password. I guess we already have that. Maybe password display. Yeah, we can call it whatever. Label password display. All right, it's going to be labeled, but we don't want it to be in the frame login. We want it to be in the frame authority, right? So it's going to be in a different one. And we want to pack it. All right, but we don't want the text to be username. So let's just make the label right here, and then we'll change the text to something else. I guess we could leave it as username, but just to show. So, all right, and let's actually just kind of double check. You know what? Let's just call this example, and let's see if this just works as is. We run this, we click this, and boom. Okay, it pops up example. Cool. All right, next we want to use the get method of the entry password for the button that is pressed and store the result. Okay, so maybe we might want to look at how, in our example here, how it gets from our GUI here. How did it get the stuff that was in our password? Oops, let me refresh that there. Okay, and you can actually see some of the things here. There is, and it says we're going to use in our to-do the get method. So let's Control F. Let's look for get. All right, so we have like even here self username dot get. All right, so we're going to get something from. So literally the dot get will get something, and we can assign that to a variable, right? Okay, so let's do that. Let's get the password, right? So PW equals, all right, we got to say where we're getting it from, right? We're going to get it from the username, or not username, the entry password. And we're going to do .get. And now we need to configure the label in the frame authority here. So what we have up here, which we call label password display, we need to configure it. So .config. What are we going to configure? We're going to configure the text to be equal to the password. Okay, so we really got to test this out and see if this works. All right, so the username, you can type in any username, and I'm going to type in the password. I'm just going to type in something here. Remember, it comes up as stars. Now, if I click login, you can see what I typed in. And so double check that that's what you typed in. So once you have it, so your frame now pops up and it will display or get what the password was typed in and display it. Go ahead and submit that. All right, guys, hopefully you're having some fun with this activity, and I will see you guys next. Have a good one.